Welcome to Coffee Conversations with Les and Paul, 30 Minutes for God.
A podcast sponsored by Piedmont Road Church of Christ and Ministry League.
We're here to discuss Bible topics just as if we were asking Jesus himself. I am Paul Sperlin.
And I am Les Sandifer. We hope you will enjoy our relaxed Bible-based discussions.
Thanks for joining us as we think about and talk about all those things we ask Jesus over a cup of coffee. Every time that ends, I just want to continue with the drums.
I know.
The beat is so good, and we've done this so many times. I just want to continue to hear the intro. Which, by the way, was a funny thing.
So just do it without them, without the intro. Dun, dun,
I
dun,
know.
dun, dun.
Do your own thing. You do realize we spend time thanking our sponsors when we also thank them actually in our intro. Which is fine. You can't thank them enough.
Oh, that's true.
Speaking of which,
Who
we've
are
already
they?
done this. Here we go. I know. The whole thing. Piedmont Road for helping us and being the eldership that guides us in what we do in our spiritual walk.
Yep.
Lifeinchrist.com. A lot of resources there. It's a Bible study resources.
That's right.
So really do that. And also Ministry League, which is ironically found at ministryleague.com.
Very clever.
Looking forward to it. A lot of things happening with that, actually. More resources, Bible study resources as well. And that's really the main focus is finding ways to share Jesus with others. And so that's what those are for. And you and I are looking forward also to an event that follows both Piedmont Road and Ministry League, as we'll be going overseas to spread the word and continue to study the word gospel with our brethren in Scotland.
Yeah, I was going to try to do my accent, but
Go. Do it.
I don't have
What
one.
you got?
I don't have a Scottish
He's Scottish.
accent.
Yes.
I don't know why I make it deeper. I actually do know why, because I used to work with a guy that was from Scotland.
Okay.
Actually, I interacted with him. He was overseas, so it wasn't like he was in America.
So you heard his voice a lot.
But I would hear his voice a lot, and it was very deep.
Was it a Zoom or was it just call?
Back then, it was just calls.
Just calls.
Yeah.
So you heard the voice all the time and you want
Yeah.
to go with it and talk about it quite a bit.
Nice.
Thank you.
It was better than mine.
That's not bad.
For sure.
Well, was it in 2019, just before COVID, John and I went and performed is not the right word. We put on Exposure Youth Camp in London, and we came back just talking with an English accent. I couldn't do it now, but because we heard it so much, we were there for like a week, and so it was really
I can say a word or two.
yeah.
Want to watch a movie?
Okay, yeah, that's good.
That's a certain British accent, though, because like America, there's accents all over.
All kinds of dialects.
There's all
to go
sorts
on
of
with that,
dialects,
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, tis
Pretty
true.
neat. Pretty neat.
We are here with the Word, with Jesus as
Yes.
presented in the Word.
This show is Coffee Conversations with Les and Paul
That's right. So we have coffee. Well, I have a coffee mug.
in the name. Okay, good.
Yeah, and it's got remnant coffee in it.
Oh, good.
It's from this morning. It's not like days old, and I just
gotcha.
happened to wander in. It's just not a fresh brewed.
So we teach class together on Sunday morning, and I brought a coffee in, and I didn't say a word about it. It's almost like this should be a show because I actually took coffee to class.
What did you have?
A warm. It was like a caramel mocha
But a coffee mug?
from Starbucks. It was a Starbucks drink. But it was like a venti.
I'm surprised I didn't even notice.
It had staying power.
Because, normally I would comment.
I know.
I know that surprises you, that I would comment on anything.
We do. I think what helps this show so much is that we both have opinions on everything.
Everything.
I mean, and we're pretty staunch about our opinions. And more than not, we talked about this earlier, we do agree. More than not, we do.
Yeah.
We never argue. We just talk about it and work through it.
I don't think we've hit too many topics where
It's true.
what we usually end up finding is that when we sound like we aren't there, it's just the path we took to get there.
Yeah,
And it sounded
that's a good point.
like it was different.
We find the same finish line, but getting there is a little different. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which isn't wrong, but it does take a while to get to the next one.
It can sometimes bog you down.
That's true.
A big shout out to our last podcast guest,
Our
Lainey
only
Sperlin.
podcast glass.
Well, it's the only guest we've had so far. But,
True.
She was on the last
True.
podcast with us. She was nervous coming in, she said.
Yeah.
And
Confident going out.
Yeah, very
I
confident.
think it caught on.
But the beauty of it is she came in thinking she was going to have to carry the load, and
Yeah.
that was not the case
No,
because not with the two of us sitting in the room.
that's true. We got
You're
that
not going
covered.
to have to carry the load.
Yeah. Which is interesting. It's not like she's never sat in the room with us before.
And that's true.
It's like, what's your problem right now?
Yeah.
But-
I don't know what you were thinking.
No. But it worked out pretty well.
So we'll continue and probably finish up the subject matter of nobody to somebody.
Yeah, we started that
Today.
about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
And then week 2 of that part of it, which actually was episode 20.
Yeah.
Celebrate 20. Was the Don't Call Me Calvin.
Yep.
So hopefully y'all listened to that one. You enjoyed that.
Yep.
And then the Laney show. And then today, I think it does. It kind of rounds it out. And next week, we're excited because we get to talk about prayer. And that will probably last for a little while.
Yeah.
Communication to
it's
God
probably
is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting topic.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that's where we were headed. So
It is where we're headed.
I'll have to redirect my thoughts today back to what we're doing.
Oh, for today?
Because now I'm already
Okay.
started thinking about prayer.
I'm really ready for next week. So good luck. What's going to happen over the next 20 minutes?
Yeah. We could just quit now and
Yeah. Let's just stop. We'll see you next week. We're
Yeah.
just too ready.
it's 6 minutes. That's all you get.
Let's go.
Luke chapter 14 is where we're working our magic today, or Jesus is working his magic, because this is actually a story told by Jesus himself.
That's true.
The parable of the wedding feast.
Yeah. So go to Luke 14. And
Yeah, look,
Join
verse
us.
7 is where we're going to start this process. So we'll give you just a second or two to get there.
mhm.
If you're using a digital something or other, we did say the verse. That's always helpful. Luke 14:7.
Mhm.
If you're using Flip the Pages Bible, not
Yeah.
quite as critical.
Do you go to many weddings? We talk quite often. I don't remember you talking about a lot of them. And I can't remember. I know. Oh, I think the last wedding I went to actually performed. So there's that. It's been a little while.
It's been a while. There was a time where we did a lot of weddings here at the building,
That's true.
and I was intimately involved with that process because we had a contract that went with it,
Gotcha.
and there was a lot of interaction with, because I was dealing with that contract piece. There was a lot of interaction with the bride and groom.
Yeah. You were here for the Hicks wedding, right?
Yeah.
So
sorry.
that wasn't, 3 months ago?
Yeah, it hadn't
2
been,
months ago.
Yeah, that
Not
one
long
hadn't
before.
been too long, and
Yeah.
that's probably the first one in a really long time.
That we've had here.
Yeah. Now, in terms of just going to weddings in general, yeah, here and there,
But here in this building,
it's been a long time.
okay, because I don't remember another one.
Well, we discontinued
Okay.
the practice of opening the building up.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha. So if it's
just
not
in
member,
general.
it's not. I
right.
gotcha.
If you're not a member here.
Interesting.
Well, and we had a couple that got married here, but the bride worshiped with us
Yeah.
periodically when she was in town, but she was really from Tennessee. Every human being that came to the wedding was from Tennessee. Every human being
Oh, my word.
that came to that wedding was from Tennessee.
Huh.
I think they were gonna stay here
Okay.
after the wedding and live here in Atlanta,
Okay.
but neither one of them were from here, and nobody coming to the wedding was from here. It was a very interesting environment.
Did they stay? Did they live here?
I have no idea.
Because I don't know who this is. probably.
Well, and no, you
Okay.
don't. And this has been years ago,
Oh, I got you.
and it was a bit of a mess. We won't get into
That's
that
a
on the
shame.
air, but
That's a shame.
so I really don't know
Okay.
where they landed.
So
Or
what?
maybe they were going back to Tennessee. I don't remember.
I know. So usually when you go to a wedding, it's because you're having to perform at it or do something at it. But if you're not, what do you when you go to a wedding? I mean, do you recognize the bride side is one side of the building
Yep.
and the groom is on the other, and you sit on the right place?
Yeah, I don't
When
thi-
Charlotte come in, somebody walks her down, and you just walk with them to sit down, or
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to a wedding that I can remember where it was what's the right word? Ambidextrous. If you can use it in the context of bride and groom.
yeah,
It was, hey, you're with the bride's family or you're with the groom's
sure,
family, and you sat on that side.
all right,
And I've been to more than one of those where more people were there from one or the other.
right,
So they would sometimes even ask people, hey, for pictures, can you sit over here on the groom's side or the bride's side or
Right.
whatever?
Well, I performed about 10, I guess, 10 weddings.
Okay.
So in most cases, I don't sit down. I'm usually standing up front,
And you're
telling them,
witnessing from a different angle.
yeah, I'm trying to explain to them what true love is, and this church will help you get through it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's
So,
funny. When you said performed a wedding, I wasn't even thinking that because I've performed at weddings.
Oh,
as
you
a
thought I
singer.
played the piano and stuff? And
Yeah, I
sang
didn't
songs?
know. I thought Paul had
Paul's got the
a side,
5-piece
got a-
band going.
He's
with
got a
his,
side gig where he's
I wish I had a side gig.
preached it
Let's
and
go.
I sang the songs and I
Yeah.
played the piano.
Yeah, you push a button and it gets the cymbals going. I mean, all kinds of. I was thinking of.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking of.
Really, you would be a one man band.
Yeah. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of. What's his name in Mary Poppins? The one man brass band.
Oh yeah.
Help me. He's hilarious. He's still
no.
alive.
Are you talking about Dick Van Dyke?
Dick Van Dyke. No,
Oh,
he died.
okay.
He did that.
I didn't know if you.
in
I
the-
didn't know you meant the actor. I thought.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I thought you meant the character.
Oh, I couldn't tell you the character's name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why. That
Awful
comes to
British
me.
accent, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. It's like, dude, you're from Brooklyn.
It's,
Quit
it's almost worth watching the movie again just to
it. I know.
hear that awful accent.
But it shows how old we are because that's the movie we reference.
yeah, it's terrible.
But there's not a lot of other movies where somebody's got a one-man brass band going.
By the way, the newer version of it's terrible.
I mean,
No.
you know, it's funny you should say that, and we're chasing a rabbit now. No, it is not as good as the original.
No.
And someone told me it's a remake. I don't think it is.
I stopped watching it.
It's the kids in the house now, right? It's like they had bad marriages or something, and now they're raising their own kids.
Yeah, it was like
It's not a remake. It is kind of going through it again.
It's like Mary Poppins 2.
Yeah, that's that. They don't.
That was a pretty good accent.
I mean, it's okay.
I should.
It's
say
good.
that. I should do it again.
I mean, that is how they talk, but that is not. I don't think how. Yeah, some people probably do though. So you're probably right.
But I don't think any British person talks like Dick Van Dyke did in that movie.
No, it was a stretch.
It was something.
But he's hilarious, and he's had a very celebrated life.
Yes.
And doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I did like what he did as an actor.
Oh yeah, me too.
In a lot of ways,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just not that accent.
Clean.
Yes.
You don't get a lot of that these days. But anyway, back out of the rabbit hole, back up here.
Yeah.
Weddings.
So
Where
Luke
do you sit?
14:7.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you sit, and what do you do when you sit there?
Yep.
So Jesus is telling a story here,
Yep.
and he basically starts it and says, you know, when you're invited by somebody to a wedding feast, which is interesting. When you think of wedding, I think of wedding. I don't think of the feast. I think of sitting down waiting for cake. But they're actually having a big meal. Some weddings do.
Must be a cultural thing.
Yeah, and a big
that we
people.
can't appreciate then.
That's
that
true.
they did then.
That's true.
But yeah, that is what he says.
He said, don't sit down in a place of honor lest someone, not funny, someone distinguished than you invited by him. So if a host invites you to come to the wedding, you know, don't sit up front, sit towards the back. Take a back seat. It's kind of how we start this off.
What if there were a bunch of round tables? There wasn't a front and back. Never mind.
Well, there has to be. Well, you know, okay.
There's
so we're
still
not
a
talking about like
there's
an assembly area. We're talking about afterwards the meal, right?
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. And this is, forget my silly comment, because I mean, really, this is about. There's a clear understanding based on the context of the scripture,
Right.
that there's
It's an established. We know what's what.
place
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
prominence and an observed place that is not as prominent.
Yep. For
And
sure.
Jesus is saying, if you're invited to this wedding feast, don't take the place of preeminence automatically, because somebody might come along that's more
And what's
preeminent than
interesting,
you.
it says you're there with somebody.
Okay.
He's saying you're not there by yourself. He says when he brings you both.
Okay.
Do you see that? In verse 9, he says, and he who invited you both will come and say to you, give your place to this person. And then you will begin with shame to take the lowest place. Okay.
Because now you've been shamed into recognizing that you've elevated yourself
Yeah.
above your station, so to speak.
So obviously you're not family, but thank you for coming. You're a friend.
Yeah, thank you for coming, but you're
Right.
not as preeminent as this other person, and you
Yeah.
presumed to be.
Right. Right.
So now you're being shamed, but which culturally was probably pretty significant then.
I think so.
We may not feel that quite as much. You sit down and you go, I didn't know. I didn't know that was the chair.
Yeah.
I didn't know that chair was reserved for somebody, even though it said on it, it was reserved for somebody.
Right. He says, go and sit in a low place.
That's right.
So that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, and this is when things change. The coin flips here. He'll say to you, friend, move up higher. Then you'll be honored in the presence of all who sits at the table with you.
Yeah, so when you accept that you may not be the most distinguished person there and you take a place accordingly,
Correct.
then you may have the honor of having somebody come to you and say, move up.
Yeah, let them do it. You sit back, and if they want to bring you up, let them do it.
So in the grand scheme of things, and I guess we're teasing to verse 11,
Yeah.
what is this really telling us? You know,
Yeah.
what's the end result here?
What's the takeaway? What are
Yeah.
you getting from this right now? Why are we even talking about this? As we're talking about being nobody's becoming somebody.
Yeah.
How does that put us in this conversation where we are right now?
So in verse 11, Jesus says,
And this is key, folks. Listen to this.
Well, it's really the summary statement
It
for the
is.
whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of discussion off air about the subject matter of nobody to somebody.
Right.
But I look at the idea and that we have to kind of remind ourselves, nobody to somebody is a spiritual relationship with Jesus, not a view of you from the world's perspective.
Right.
So when you become somebody in Jesus, you're not becoming a somebody to the world around you.
Yeah.
You are special
Right.
to Jesus, where before you were special to Jesus, but you didn't have the relationship with him to be somebody.
The only standard that matters, let's just do this. The only standard that matters is where do we sit when it comes to Jesus?
Yep.
The world, who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
because it's so temporary. It's so temporary, but the world sees it differently.
That's right.
Survival of fittest, strong survives, forget you, knock you down. But
I have more toys.
yeah, and look what I have. Don't you wish you had more stuff?
Look at me. Look at me.
I'm like, well, I'm just glad God gave me the stuff I have.
That's right.
Because I'm not going to have it very long because I'm going to be with him one
Well,
day.
you can't take it with you.
I know.
So you got to do the right things with it. But I read the summation of this and the idea of being humble. And that, I mean, it really is a key concept that you are somebody to Jesus, and you're probably more somebody to Jesus by the humility that you show in the world around you,
Right.
and recognizing that
Oh, yeah, that's good.
you are his heir, and you need to act accordingly.
Right. Because there's two sides to the verse 11. There's two sides to it completely.
Yeah.
And it starts off kind of negative. And so don't fall in that category.
Right.
Whoever exalts himself.
That's been all day.
I know.
All day.
I can't talk. Exalts himself will be humbled. Let's start right there for a minute.
Yep.
If you walk in the room and expect the high seat,
Yeah.
you're going to be set straight.
Yep.
Someone's going to say,
No.
this is not your seat.
Right.
I'm sorry. Sit in the back.
You should sit in the back.
Yeah. I would much rather go to the back and be told to come to the front than sit in the front and go to the back. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Well, and that's what
what Jesus is saying.
The verse talked about being shamed.
That's right.
Being
It
shamed.
literally use the word.
Yeah.
So be careful how you carry yourself. Be careful what you do. And I don't think we're just talking about a feast of a wedding
No.
here. We're talking about life.
Yeah. Clearly, this is this application is beyond the parable context that he used to say that in life in general, you need to be humble.
Right.
And that can
That's tough.
it can be.
Yeah.
It can be it can be tough.
I know.
All of a sudden, I become Paul. I
It's
can't
both
speak.
of us.
I become tumble. Tough and humble at the same time.
Tumble.
Somehow that's tumble.
Can you illustrate that for me?
No, because it was a
There's
made
plenty
up,
of for it.
made
I'll
up
open the door.
fake word.
I'll open the door. You can just roll right out and roll back in.
Yeah, we'll. Let me just pause. Let me pause the recording and then we'll start over.
Da, da, da. You got
But
that
yeah,
hand clap.
it's it can be a tough thing. You and I were talking about this a little bit. The idea that God gives us talents.
Yeah.
And in having those talents, he expects you to use them. which means you have to acknowledge within yourself that you have the God-given ability to do whatever it is, whether that's whatever it is in your life.
Right.
Do you have the natural ability to be helpful to other people all the time? If that's just in your nature to do that, or are you a good song leader? Can you preach the word of God effectively and pretty easily? That comes to you.
Right.
It can be challenging to stay humble within yourself, knowing that you excel with those particular talents, right?
Yeah.
Like the person you may or may not have made reference to.
So I'm gonna make a statement here, and it's an indictment, and I'm sorry, but it is what it is. In the business that I'm in, and those like us that put on events and things like that, we've been doing this close to 30 years.
Wow.
I mean, there's probably 7 or 8 events that are in existence because of the work we've done, and we're still a part of a lot of those. So, but the biggest turnoff, and you probably know what I'm about to say, the biggest turnoff and putting on all these events, all the background stuff you do, and setting up speakers and teachers and just that kind of talent, things like that. The biggest turnoff is when someone comes up to you and says, if you need a speaker, I'm your person, or I'm really good at this topic. You need to use me. Or one of the things, I probably shouldn't say this, but one of the things is when someone says they can do this a little better than that person.
Oh,
so I'm like, oh, okay. Ooh. When in actuality, and we've been doing this long enough to know what is good and what's not good, and I hate saying that because anything we do for God is benefiting the kingdom, and I get that.
Yeah. But
when you look at our clientele, and it's different from event to event. Sometimes it's teenagers, sometimes it's adults, sometimes it's college students. But we want to put the right people in front of the people. So we do create a list, and the list is of people that think they're better than everybody else. And that list is a real list that we keep because we want to make sure that when we have someone we put in front of people that they fall under this Luke 14, verse 11 concept.
So how do you, in the context of, let's just say EYC,
okay,
and you're putting that together for speakers, how do you come to know who you might want to use? If it's not, I'm not even sure how to ask this. Let me say what was going through my head, and then we can flesh it out.
It's fine.
How do you go about finding speakers that might fit into this category of who you want to use to be part of that event?
Okay.
That aren't necessarily the 5 people you know really well that you've used all the time, because certainly.
How do we break out into different people?
Well, I mean, certainly there's a lot of people out there that are probably humble about what they do, have a talent that they can actually do that you really firmly believe they could stand on a stage in front of 3,000 people, and deliver a solid message to the group that's there. I'm just curious.
Not everybody can lead a song or preach in front of 3,000 people.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, they can do great in front of 300, but 3,000 is a little different.
Yeah,
and probably more complicated leading singing than it is speaking, if you want to think about it.
Well, and
you can speak to that. Go ahead.
Just for the listening audience.
You know what I mean?
I lead singing here at church, but I've also been in a band. And we've played in front of a lot of people. I don't know that we've ever played in front of a 3,000.
The band is secular, by the way.
The band is secular. That's correct, yeah.
So quickly went to that.
It's a rock and roll band, right? But it just lends itself to, I've stood on stage in front of people just to validate what Paul's saying. There's a difference between playing on the curb in front of 30 people in front of a music store and having a professional sound system, and you're in a situation. I don't know if I ever told you this, but our band played for a Guinness Book of World Records record.
Oh, I didn't know
with a gazillion other bands.
Okay.
And it was a very stressful environment. There were probably 6 people in the audience when we played, but there was a whole line of people in the back. And their whole purpose in life was to make sure you didn't screw up the Guinness Book of World Records record.
Oh, wow.
So you had 30 seconds between songs. and you had to keep the songs going. You had to play for X number of, I think we were playing.
Like the longest medley ever?
Well, it was just basically the longest
Keep music
concert.
going. Okay.
So we were one band out of, like I said, a bunch that played over multiple days.
Wow.
And our time slot was 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning at a restaurant that otherwise wouldn't be open at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, right? So there's nobody in the audience. And we're playing, and there's somebody back there, and our guitarist, right before the song that he wrote and he's supposed to sing and play, breaks a string in the song right before it. He's never broken a string before.
Of course not.
Ever in any practice we ever had. And the guy in the back is pointing at his watch, right? Because we have to start. So basically, the lead guitarist had to start playing a song that he didn't know, and I had to start singing a song that I didn't know. We had played it together, but he wrote this for his wife, so he's it was just a very weird environment. But so we digress. But I get what you're saying about
That's cool.
about it takes a certain person to stand up there. But I presume you guys just from your networking know people out there, or have you heard of people that? So
we have 10 people on the board, 9 guys, 1 lady, and yeah, we do our very best, and you know this, we do our very best to know as many people as possible, so we can come in contact with as many people as possible, and certain topics bring certain people. You know, if it's like now, and I'm just going to start throwing names out. Lonnie Jones we could probably put him up there for anything. Yep, because Lonnie's awesome, but he's also a licensed professional counselor. And if it's a topic having to do with spiritual health and wellness, he's going to be our guy more than not. We have about 10 guys that can do what Lonnie probably does, but Lonnie breaks down scripture better than most anybody we know. So there's that.
And Lonnie's a known commodity with the audience.
He is.
That's the other thing that matters, because
it does.
Everybody, you could just see the excitement level. Yeah. Probably a bad way to put it, but people are energized knowing that they're going to hear a lesson from him. Yeah. So that helps.
Yeah. And I think if you have like 5, so we have like 5 speakers for keynotes. You have 2 mornings and 3 nights. And one of those 5 is somebody that probably spoke the year before. Okay. Because, to give them some consistency and stuff like that. We have a deal. Well, we have a deal with David Shannon, President Freed. We could get him every 3 years. I think we get him because we want him on stage. He's really good at presenting. Okay. And everybody loves him. So there's that. So really, it's about topic. It's about what you can speak on, what you have, what your experiences, but also your ability to speak. Because there's a 3,000 person situation with worship, but there's also like 250, 300 for a class. Right. There's no small classes. So it really just depends on where we're at and what the topic is and how that goes like that.
Well, and bringing it back to the subject matter of where we're ending today with nobody to somebody. Right. There has to be a humility that goes with who you are. Yeah. To fit into that environment too, because otherwise it's going to radiate, in my opinion, it's probably going to radiate that you are not. That you don't have that humility in your relationship with Jesus when you stand in front of a group. Sure. Because your core focus is not.
And to bring that home, as much as verse 11 starts with, if you come in to exalt yourself, you'll be, I hate saying punished, but it does use the word shamed. Yeah. It's not good. The flip side of that is, if you go in bringing yourself low and with full of humility, guess what? The Lord is going to bring you higher.
That's right.
And that's the key to it.
Well, and there's the tie. Yeah. You will be somebody. Yeah. In the eyes of God, in the eyes of Jesus, when you humble yourself before Him.
Without Him, we're nothing.
Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up.
And with Him, we're everything. It's great. For Les Sandifer, I'm Paul Sperlin. This has been Coffee Conversations with Les and Paul. 30 minutes for God. Thank you to Piedmont Road and Ministry League for supporting our great effort here. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Ministry League app. And follow us, if you can, shoot us an email at coffeeconvo@lifeinchrist.com. If you have questions, comments, anything at all, thank you for being here. We look forward to being with you over that next cup of coffee.